to do this and actually get away, and the way they were resisting us, I didn't even think in this country this was possible. I mean, everything that I just noticed this election cycle just blew my mind, and I'm like, well, how is it different from any other country that we come from?
How much confidence do you have in the voting results because of this?
I absolutely have no confidence.
I see.
And also probably because, see, when I went to bed after the first day on the elections day, everything looked great. Like, not great because it was red. I mean, the elections was, he was leading, Trump was leading, but only because we were there. All the ballots that were stacked on that night, we asked them, why were you not processing? They said, they're not processing. Nobody would even answer us why. And when we were leaving, there were barely any people to even process the rest of this ballots. And the night shift barely had, at least I know, maybe less than a quarter of the staff, the graveyard shift. Then I'm like, who actually processed between that time to, in the morning, 5 o'clock, 100,000 votes, like, because when we were there throughout the day on the 3rd, we could only, like, with 134 tables working, they only were able to get, I think, 85, 90,000 done. But somehow, miraculously, from 10 to morning, they just had, like, all these ballots processed, and it jumped up by 100,000.
So when did you start noticing that Republicans were being kicked out? When did that start happening a lot?
Second day.
What time the second day, roughly?
I reached there almost, like, as I said, by noon. And then by the time these people were there, like I said, they had a wheel on things, but then they came and then they were dancing and chanting and all that. And the first one, I think, probably happened within like an hour and a half.
Okay.
It's almost like these people only came with that objective. And these were the common 5 people that were influencing every single table where the people were getting kicked out.
Okay. So am I understanding you correctly? I don't want to put words in your mouth. But did you notice that more Republicans were being kicked out after the time you arrived on Wednesday as opposed to Tuesday?
Correct.
Okay. But all through Tuesday, you said there were lots of ballots that could have been processed,
They were not processed.
but they were not being processed.
Correct.
And then you said between the hours of when and when, you noticed all of a sudden just thousands of ballots got processed was when?
In the night, when I went to bed at
Tuesday.
12:30. Tuesday night, yeah.
Okay.
When I went to bed at 12:30, I was just watching the news. Everything was like okay, because the number of ballots that they reported by the time that, okay, TCF was one of them, but then I know two or three other places were processing it. The number kind of makes sense, because my only thing is the math doesn't add up, because we had 134 tables working, or 5 people on each table working, and the number of ballots, he announced when all those poll workers were leaving that the total number of ballots that got done that day, in that shift, like the shift that started from 7 to 8, right? 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., they were pretty much 90,000 ballots. So how did that number jump up within 5 hours after that?
Wow.
By 100,000. With barely anybody in that room left. Because everybody left at 8 o'clock. And the next shift started at 9:30, but then for 9:30 they didn't have poll workers. Many of the poll workers left.
So you said they processed about 100,000 ballots in 5 hours.
Correct.
At night?
At night.
Tuesday night?
Yeah, with quarter of a staff.